All right, guys. So welcome. If I forget your names, just remind me. My name is Marlon Solomon, and I am the founder of the Afro American Culture Initiative. It's a Boston-based nonprofit. I do work in red. I'm a civil engineer by training. I do work in, like I said, redlining, urban renewal, and the work I do is. How would you say it's very different because I am probably one of the only experts in this field that is thinking about the cultural implications of um, development and infrastructure. So when we look at any kind of, make sure I go on the right thing, right? All right. So when we think about infrastructure and the way the land is developed, a lot of times we just look at it from a certain point of view, right? That, oh, well, there's a building and the building is there, and then we live in the building and we do activities in the building. But one of the weirdest things about it that we don't think about is the fact that I'm kind of like in the way. Let me be over here. Yeah. So one of the things that we do not think about is like what does these buildings do to our daily lives? How does it affect the very activities that we do? Right? So before we get started, I know I met everybody, but I want to do a quick reminder of your names and what school you go to and grade, if you don't mind. Stella,
Yeah.
right?
New Beginnings High School, 10th grade.
Nice, nice.
Victoria, 10th grade, Brighton High.
Where?
Brighton High.
Brighton High, okay.
I go to Cash. I'm 11th grader.
All right, nice. Okay, so you guys are right in the mix of it. So, where do I start? Okay, so does anybody really know anything about redlining? Anybody want to start us off with a little comment or two? No? Not really? Okay. Well, we'll get into it. So I'll give you a little brief. Synopsis of the basic thing behind my research. So I'm bicultural, all right? So my dad is Nigerian and my mom is African American. Now, why that matters? Because, well, I grew up there, right? And I learned the culture and I started realizing when I moved here and started doing engineering stuff that literally the way the towns are built and developed are different. And there's certain things that are in the infrastructure that allows us to practice our culture, right? Okay, so does anybody have any ethnic backgrounds that you would like to share? Like I said, I'm Nigerian and African American. No, not really. All right, fine. Well, if you're from like any location of culture, you will find that that city has a central market. All right. So a central market meaning a place where anybody can just go and, buy food, whatever, right? In the middle. And a lot of this purpose behind that as well, because culture and economics go together. They're not. So like, who's been to the North End? Right. What kind of culture is there? Italian. Right. And what do they sell there? Right. Italian stuff. Italian cannolis. Right. They sell a lot of this stuff, right? So that space is for them to practice their cultural economics. Now, if we destroyed the place, then they don't have a place to sell. Not only that, they're dispersed, right? What about Chinatown? Same concept, right? A space where culture, economics is happening, and you go there to experience the whole culture. So now let's move a little bit south in Boston. If there are no spaces like that, then how do those people have to make money? They have to get a job and leave their community which now makes it so that the taxes are not generated here, which makes it so that now you've got to, work somewhere else, and then your schools don't get funded because that's how your schools get funded. Then what kind of businesses are in our community? Fast food. Well, right up the street, actually, there's Dorchester. There's a Vietnamese. There's a very strong Vietnamese culture growing up there, hub there, right? So it's not, there are pockets of smaller, emerging hubs. Eggleston Square is very Dominican, right? Mattapan is very Haitian and Caribbean, right? So this is where I started noticing, and the reason why is because, see, the red line map is not based on race. No matter, it's mostly based on culture. Are you Jewish? Are you Polish? Are you African American? Are you, Italian? And the red areas are mostly places that are poor, for lack of a better word, right? And then the yellow places are kind of middle class, but they're not people that are, they're white, but they're not the Yankees or the people who did the Revolutionary War. So they're immigrants at this time. Also, another fun fact, this map was drawn, the red line map was drawn in 1938. So the people that were coming into the America then were not Mexican or African or, other Caribbean nations. They were Jewish and other people like German and people like that. So just to keep you there, right? Now, I'm gonna do a little quiz. Y'all like quizzes? It's fun quiz. Don't worry, you'll be fine. And it's on your phone. And the reason why we're doing this quiz is because I believe in art being a very strong conveyor. Like, what do they say? A picture is worth 1,000 words. So actually, we don't have 1,000. We don't have enough space to put on this portrait 1,000 spaces. But this was drawn by a good friend of mine, Daphne Walker, who is, she has her location in Canvas Studios in Hyde Park. Anybody heard of it? Well, they do like paint at night. It's real cool. Like, it's not just, families, people go there on dates and they paint, it's kind of like a cool idea. And she did this drawing. The drawing is called Rise Above Redlining. And this portrait, each word put there by a workshop, like the ones we're having today. So you guys are going to have a word that we're going to pick after our conversation. And hopefully we're going to add another word when the next time I see Daphne. I'm like, Daphne, I got a word. These lovely people at Trees Boston said that we needed to put this word. All right. So how does this work? All right. So if any of y'all use Slido, you know what Slido is? It's so easy. It's like you use your phone. So this is one time that somebody in instruction is going to tell you to use your phone. So pull out your phones, right? So I'll explain it as we go through it, but each segment will add, we're going to have a we're going to have like a word cloud. And then I want you to listen carefully, right? And then when we have this, well, it says breakout room, but when we talk about something, as we're having our discussion, if you hear a word that you really think is strong, then you add it, right? And we add it and we add it and we add it until we start saying, if you see a word that's already up there that you like, type it in again, okay? So that it gets bigger and then we'll know that that's the word of interest, right? Anyway, we'll get to that. So the first thing we need to do is scan our lovely QR code here. And there we go. All right. So you should have this on your phone when you get done with it. All right. All right. All right. So the first question is, it's kind of like a check question just to see How much do you think you know about redlining and urban renewal as we're talking right now? Because we're going to do another question at the end so we can see how much we learned or how much we think we've improved on our redlining information and what we think we know about redlining at this point, right? So let's see. I got one person, I think that's me, signed up. So I'll know how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need 6 people. I have to say at least 7. And then we'll get started. Uh-oh, we got another. Oh, maybe it wasn't. Yeah, we got 2. Let's see. I'm feeling it's kind of cold. I give myself a. Why is it saying this? All right. All right. Wow, we have varying opinions. Okay. Oh, this is not even how I feel. Sorry, my bad. I'm supposed to. This is how much I know about redlining. Well, I have to say I know everything. No. All right, and that's very okay, right? Some people have a good idea, some people don't, but that's why we're going to have a conversation. I want you guys to please. I know I talk a lot. Just butt in. Don't worry about it. Just let's have a conversation, right? Okay. So now we're all in here. So I'm going to put my name, although I probably will not answer the questions. But all right, let's join the quiz. All right. Okay, so we've got our group here ready to go. Okay, so y'all ready? All right. So, what do you think is the primary purpose of the red line map? And we have is multiple choice. So we've got housing discrimination. It's a very good choice. Tool to guide infrastructure development. That's good. Lower property values of ethnic groups. Locate ethnic and racial communities. Maintain segregation. So we've got one answer in. So I'm not going to answer because then I'll skew the data. All right, we got answers in. How many people have answered? Okay. Let's see what we got going. All right. So we got a few answers. Everybody answered. Come on, answer up. Let's see what you got. Oh, has it locked it? Okay, sorry. I have to leave it open so you guys can. Otherwise. All right. Everybody answered? All right. Okay, so we have actually, okay, so maintain segregation, we got 50%. It's actually, how do we, is there a way to make it a little maybe higher? I don't know if it's possible, probably not. Because there's an option on the bottom. Let's see, am I able to? Oh, there you go. I'll just do it like that. That was it. That's fine. That's fine. All right. So we have 50% of us, half of us said maintain segregation, locate ethnic and racial communities, tool to guide development. Now, this is the reason why I asked this question up front is because there are a lot of whitewashed responses to what redlining is. So if you heard anything outside, they give you they'll give you the symptoms and not give you the actual core of the answer. So they'll say, oh, it's a tool to guide development. Okay, let's see what the answer is first. Locate ethnic and racial communities. All right. Now, the reason why this is so important is because this map is sort of like a survey. It's not the map, and maybe we'll go into it. I can show you here. All right. This is a map of not every, but a lot of the red line maps. So you can see that there are a lot of dots, right? Every dot means thousands and thousands of people were forcibly displaced. Every single one. So this wasn't like one place. So this was a national program that the United States government did to go into different communities and of course communities of culture, and not racial necessarily, right? And they were going in and just kicking people out and leveling them so they could expand the cities or put a highway through it. And that is the history of why everything is the way it is. All right. And I'm going to show you. So when you think of the red line map, you say, well, it's a red line map and it has all these different colors on it. All right. So this is the Boston red line map. All right. So let's zoom in. Let's see. And we are somewhere here. No, maybe.
Yeah, that's about right.
Well, here or here. Right. So now when you go here, there is actually, if you look here, there are some remarks. I'm going to go to the actual scan of, and this is what the red line map really is all about. It's a survey. And all they're doing is, they're talking about favorable, favorable and, little issues like good transportation, schools. What does that say? It's kind of churches, shopping center, fairly desirable section of older houses. Now look at the date, October 1st, 1937. Okay, this now look, you can even see by how much paper they dedicate. How much paper do they dedicate to that, and how much paper do they dedicate to tell you who lives there and what did they do? So back then, this area had 5% foreign-born families, Irish, and infiltration. That's also, you have to look at some of the language. Infiltration of Jewish. Why is that important if you're trying to build anything, right? It's because, you see, when you're trying to, as a developer, and if you're trying to develop land and everywhere is built up because Boston is older than dirt, then you need to figure out where people live so that I can design my road to go there and not to go there. Very simple. So when everybody tells you, oh, redlining is about housing discrimination, that's because they don't want to tell you that, well, in the beginning, it wasn't about housing discrimination. It was about where are you living so I can build my houses there and I can deny you from living there where I live. All right. So this is the real cause of the redlining. All right. So let's go back to our little quiz. All right. And all right, let's see. Vicky in the lead. Way to go, girl. Right. And you can see it's timed. So you got to be quick. You got, like, what do they call it? Twitter fingers? Right. So, all right. So we're on, okay, I did not participate. Yes, of course I didn't participate. All right. So we got Lynn, only about 5 seconds. And then and then even though you're fast, if you're wrong, then so these guys are in the lead because they go right. So just to let you know how it works, right? All right. So now, we're going to ask the question. It's okay if you get it right or wrong because that's not the point. The point is for us to use these questions as discussion. So, first of all, before I go on to the next one, any comments on that first question? And I'm talking about too much. Vicky, what do you think? You got it all right. You were the one that's first.
I don't know. I was kind of just taking a guess. I'm not 100% sure.
Really? Well, it was a good guess. All right. Anybody else?
It was surprising to me because I didn't realize that they use that to locate like communities of culture, like you said. Originally, the way it was taught to me was that it was for housing discrimination.
That's why I have to do what I do, because if you don't the reason is right now there's a current rezoning going on in Boston, and I'm telling you right now, this has happened before. Communities of culture are going to be out of all this area that you think is our area, and this is your Dorchester, Fields Corner, Hyde Park, Mattapan. Forget about it. Next 10 to 15 years, it'll be mostly white or people that can afford it, which is the same thing, I guess.
I've seen it happening in East Boston, where a bunch of condos are going up, and then people are being. I mean, the community is mostly Hispanic.
Right,
immigrants
right.
there.
Right.
And then we're priced out of our own neighborhood that we've lived in for our whole lives.
Right. And this is very important when you think of the racial wealth gap, because like I said, you need to be in a location long enough to grow as a community. You can't grow as an individual. The only way you can grow in this society is if you get a job with the status quo. You can't have your collection of business. And they'll say, well, your business can still be there. Okay, but if there's no people, like, so let's say I cut, I'm a Latino barber and I could cut, a lot of Latinos, my customers. If they're not there, then what happens to my business? But, oh yeah, you're there, you can stay there. Of course I can stay there. There's nobody to, like, my people have to come 2 hours to come to my business, right? So it's very, very important that we understand the history so it's not repeated again. So like I said, we just looked at a place, and the place that we are was a Jewish location. And in fact, all along Blue Hill Avenue up to basically around here. And from here, it starts getting Irish, going down towards Savin Hill and all that. So this is kind of like a border area. And this book, The Death of American Jewish Community, Tragedy of Good Intentions, speaks of this area and how it was basically chosen for where African Americans could buy homes in 1968. And we'll go into that, but did everybody answer? Has everybody answered? Please answer the question. Let me not go too far ahead. But this is a very good book. And while people answer the question, so, this area was affected by the trolley lines. This is a very important fact to understand. Back in those days, you could go on Talbot. I do have I'll look for it later. Please remind me. I have a map of the old trolley lines. There's one right on this street. I forget the name of the street. Not the one with the ice cream. Not the one with the park. What was that? Dorchester Ave, right? Right? The one in between here and there. And if you go down there, right, there's this weird little turnaround where there's some pizza shops and stuff. There's a weird little, like, why is this here? There's always say that Boston is built for horse and carriage. It's not true. It's built for trains. Okay, electric trains that used to run everywhere, like the bus system. So that's what replaced the bus system. So you didn't have to walk from the red line before. You would just get on a trolley line and almost every other street had it. It's not like it was like, especially like if you go to the West End back then, it was like literally almost every street or every other street had a trolley line. So they removed all of this, and that's the funny thing, as you guys are environmentally inclined, it was actually more green in the 1930s when you had electric trains, like the Milton trolley. Has anybody been on the Milton trolley, Ashmont? Right? That one is electric. All the green line is electric, but everywhere else is bus. So it's actually not surprising that you'd have a situation where there's more fumes and carbon in this community than that, because their transportation is, first of all, it just goes right down the middle of the street. You just walk across the street and get on the train. There's like a million trolley lines, there. Stops, right? Hey, welcome. Have a seat. Right? Okay, how are we gonna get you we need you to get your phone out and scan that QR code because we're taking a quiz. What's your name, buddy?
Fairhome.
Huh?
Fairhome.
Fairhome?
No, Fairhome.
Fairhome? I can't.
Fairhome.
Fairhome. How do you spell it? Sorry.
Faraham.
Okay, Fairhome. All right. So where are you from?
Me?
Haitian?
I'm not Asian.
Where are you from? Where's the name from? It's okay. I'm half Nigerian. Sorry, you weren't here in the beginning. I'm half Nigerian, half Marlon Solomon, half Nigerian, half African American. So I just thought the name was very interesting. So I like doing that. All right. So let's see for right now, so Fairhome can see what we're doing. All right. So Which color zone the red light map would a Jewish community be and located in? Yellow zone, red zone, none of the above. Yellow zone, right? Remember, I told you that, well, there are basically 4 zones, right? There's the green zone, and that's kind of covered up here, but there's the green zone. The green zone is for, I call them either the Yankees or the Union, like the Civil War, the Northerners that were here from like the beginning of the country. So John Quincy Adams and co. That's why it's called Quincy, right? John Quincy Adams and co. That group, right? They're the rich guys that have been here for 100 years, right? Then blue is also, but like maybe not as rich. So when you see the green areas, the only green areas in the Boston metro area are in Brookline and in Milton. They're still very, like the governors lives there. These are the big boys. Where did Tom Brady live? I think he lives in Brookline, right? So Brookline is historically protected, and they've had, their communities have been there undisturbed for ever since they built it. Oh, quick question. This is a bonus question. What year was this building built? Y'all don't know? Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. Okay, I'll give y'all a hint. I got it. Y'all got it. When you walk into the building, it's written on the front of the building.
Which building?
This building. They're not going to write it on somebody else's building. Lord have mercy. Huh? Y'all have no idea. Y'all be walking in this. How many times y'all been in this building? 100, 200? This building was built in 1880. 80. That's why I said thank you for letting me. No problem. I said that's why I said thank you for letting me be in this building, because literally 1880. So what? Slavery was only gone for about 15 years. That is how long. So you can just imagine, a lot of us would not have been allowed in this building back then. Keeping it real, because that was happening in these spaces. Or if we were allowed in this building, we would have been working somewhere, coming in and out the back. And that's facts. And it's important to understand that while we're walking around in the space enjoying it now, because they're now, when you recognize what's been done, you'll know that things are just getting remixed and done in a different way, but the results are still the same. Thousands of people will be displaced. Thousands of people that look like us will be displaced, no matter whether you like it or not. Okay? So let's see who's Vic ain't playing. She ain't playing. She's not playing. But you cut a, was it Gabe, you're back. You got on the store for it. All right. Now you're gonna have to shave 6 seconds off to be her, unless she falls behind. Right. No. I'm rooting for Vicky. All right. Oh, this is a good one. So, because that's exactly this. So good. So, like we said, this right here, when you see yellow, it means basically other. Okay? All right? Yeah, nobody. Bro, you gonna pick up your phone, man, and ask a question, bro? I know you want to use your phone. All kids your age want to use their phone. I'm giving you a real reason to use your phone. Go right ahead. All right? So, you can see here, this is the Redline map. I'm doing a documentary. It's coming out February 1st, called The Lost Cultural Hubs of Boston, because there are a lot of different hubs. You can see here, this little Syria. So, yeah, it was okay. You recognize the restaurant. There's a restaurant that's there. That whole area was Syrian. Then next door was Chinatown. Then Nubian Square, as we know, this is Wally's Jazz Cafe. Does anybody know where Wally's Jazz Cafe is? Let's see, y'all older ones that be hanging out. I don't expect y'all to know. I'm glad y'all didn't say nothing. And they started in 1947. That area, right, is the historic African-American location and when I say African American, I'm not talking about Nigerian like my dad or Jamaican or Barbados, although there were a lot of them, but they were the minority. The majority were African Americans. So there were at least 12 jazz clubs in that area and restaurants. It was an African American version of Chinatown, basically. So, I mean, how many of y'all have gone anywhere and even seen like more than one or two African American clubs in one place? It's always, I gotta go here, and I gotta drive across town, hopefully sober, and then you gotta go to the next one and go to the next one, right? There was a cluster. This is very important for the cultural development, the cultural economics that I'm talking about. That you should have a place where you go and be like, this is our place. This is where we do our thing. My granddaddy went to this place. There's a place in Nigeria called Bacchus, and it's an old club. And I'm telling you, like, so they say all roads lead to Bacchus. And Bacchus, really, like, my daddy went to Bacchus, and it's still like the place where all the young people go. Think about that, like, and then the owner passed it to his dad. The dad died, and now the daughter runs it. So the daughter had a job before she was even born. That's generational wealth. The house, that's like a savings account, right? A little bit of 5% growth. You buy a house and you sit there for 30 years. And what about the money you need today? That's the checking account. And guess what? If you don't live in an environment that has, so like, what good would I be doing African hair braiding in Brooklyn? They ain't gonna have no customers because everybody nobody there be like, African hair braiding. Ain't no Africans here. Ain't no black people here that need their hair braided. So I'm gonna be S out of luck, right? So that's why it's important. The hub, the village is very important. It cannot be substituted. All right. So this Dorchester area, this is like Jewish, Italian, Irish, right? And remember, this is about class. The difference between yellow and red is class. It's not anything else, because there are white people and black people all living in this place. And that's another thing that I learned by doing my interviews, is that when you were, first of all, they were poor, but they never thought they were poor because there was a lot of community support. So if you need that extra sugar because you don't have no sugar on Thanksgiving, you don't have to go to the store and hang and line up with all those people like I did. Still tweaking off for a little bit. It was a long line, and I only needed one thing. And why? Because people were like, everybody lived and their family lived. And after 2 or 3 generations of everybody living, owning their homes or renting or whatever the case may be, you just go across, hey, bro, we need some sugar. Oh, yeah, good. I need some butter. So you have support. It's not like now where you just go and nobody knows who you are. And you go to school with people that were Irish, that were Italian, so all this desegregation happened, where it's really about rich versus poor. It really wasn't necessarily all about poor. It's just that if you had black people in your school, yeah, your school got the least. That's all that really I can tell you about race. But it wasn't like there weren't Irish and Jewish and different groups of people inside these schools, right? And of course, if you're in a community like Mattapan or around here, Blue Hill Ave, yeah, there's actually, like, you know where the Brook School is? Like right along, where is that? Here. No, that's Seaver. Okay, it's Blue Hill Ave here. Yeah, right? And there's a Brook School there. If you look on top, it says School for Jewish Children. Y'all should start looking on top of the buildings because they got all these cool dates on them. Man, anyway. So Dorchester, so this area over here, like Mission Hill, this is like Longwood, was Irish. So if you go there, you'll see big Irish churches, like next to the youth engagement office, there's a big one. And then on this side, mostly African American. So y'all know where Madison Park Technical Vocational School is? That used to be the heart of the African American community. About 8,600 people were displaced, about I think 30 square blocks. This is where where the police station was. There was a dentist office, black dentist office. So imagine in 1960, the black dentist. So what would he be now? Along Mass Ave, across from Wally's, those were black-owned brownstones. Imagine how much money they would have now if they were allowed to stay in their place. So so in Chinatown and the West End, you know where the courthouse, where the Celtics play? That area was completely Italian and looked like the North End, and it was level to the ground. You can only see little bits of it, like the Charles Street Jail is part of it, the MGH, but anything on Cambridge Street in between there and the Celtics used to be just like the North End, and was knocked down to the ground, leading all the way up to the Bell in Hand, those bars down there, and then up to the State House, and where the government center is. Where government center used to be called Scully Square, and it was like a big place where a lot of people used to have fun. There was burlesque. There was a lot of different things going on there. But this is the least part known, is the Cambridge. The highest percentage of African Americans in the Boston, all these red areas, the highest percentage is right there, in between MIT and Harvard. The place formed because it was like a port, port side was where Central is, so that's a little bit further up here, and on the right hand side was what they call Riverside or the Coast. That's the name. That's like the name of it. And the Coast, right? There's a soul food restaurant there called the Coast Cafe. Go check it out. Great soul food. There's like some of the last people that are from that community that are still there. MIT and Harvard bought it out, started buying it out for the cheap. And then when people tried to move back, they couldn't afford it. It was gone. And like I said, 70% African American. I think the rest was Italian, mostly. So you don't think of Harvard as being and Howard formed, obviously. And one good thing about it, one thing I want to point out about the African American communities of this time is that it's not a poor, you may think it's a poor community in general, but it's not exactly. Why? Because because of segregation, whether you were rich, middle class, or poor, you lived in the same place. And this is very important for the leaders and the investors of a community to actually be living in the community, right? Otherwise, you have people coming from outside your community telling you what looks good in your community. And like I say, these people have no seasoning in their food. Okay, so they're gonna come with their bland ideas and how to do it's facts. If you have no seasoning, if you can't, how are you gonna go to somebody who can't dance and ask them to teach you how to dance? Oh, go ahead, yeah. All right. So you've already answered your question, so you don't lose yours. I don't want any. I was supposed to win. So anyway, so that's just a little history of the hubs of Boston. Mattapan was Jewish. They made the same, and this part is not even about money. They made basically the same amount of money across the thing because the marketplace of this area was Mattapan Square. So even if you go to Milton, there's a big church there and it says like the Milton Church or something, like, no, Mattapan Church in Milton. But this river is what divides it. So this place, they were making money. They weren't making as much money, but they were making 3,000 to 6,000 here, and they were making 3,000 to 7,500 there a year. This is 1938. Okay, so they just basically, it's completely false that it's poor now. It just was created that way. And like I said, they created it because they took out all the trolley lines that led us to Dudley, because you would just take a trolley line here to Dudley. You could take a trolley line from Mattapan to Rosendale Square down Cummings. You could take a trolley line from Mattapan to Cleary Square down River Street. Think how much. So when they did that, what did they do? They made it so that you have to go into the heart of the city to come here. So if I'm here and I want to take the red line, I want to take the T, I got to go to Ashmont and go all the way up, come up here. What's the transfer from red to orange? No. Yeah, downtown crossing. And I got to switch the downtown crossing to the orange and then come down here to Forest Hills. And then I got to take the 32 to Cleary Square. when there was literally a trolley or electric trolley going right down River Street. So when you start seeing all these funny little, like I said, that place over here, that, little funny, like little turnings, I think it's Codman Square, like there's a little like firehouse and all these little, like, what is this? It's because there used to be a train that's where they turned around at, right? So let's see. Oh, everybody answered? Okay, which way was not?
We didn't answer that yet.
You didn't answer that yet? Okay, so go ahead, answer. Go ahead, answer, because I want everybody's results. Even if, go ahead, answer. Y'all was listening to me. Y'all not supposed to be listening to me. I bet you Vicky was on top of it. Like, I bet you she was on top of it. So, you guys having fun so far? It's kind of interesting, maybe. You came in a little late, but yes, I'm an engineer, and I doing work on researching what these communities were like, so I can tell y'all young people, because if I don't, and like, so I interviewed like a guy at Roxbury, 100 years old. He came into Boston in 1940. And he's a reverend. And it's, you don't have to be that old. Literally anybody about 60 and above live in a completely different world than you've experienced. I'm not that old, okay? But people like my mom, born in the 50s, she grew up in communities where there were villages. Like I said, African-American communities where you had the rich, the middle class, the poor, all living in the same place, and the investor. So like, if you needed a job, then maybe you was in trouble. They say, hey, bro, I know your brother, your daddy, come on here, I'll give you a job, but you got to stay out of trouble. Like there was a camaraderie. It wasn't like now where everybody's just working at, working downtown. In fact, this area, all in here, is literally one big reservation. There's no commercial activity that literally happens here. That's why they have corner stores. Because there's no big area like Newberry Street or Harvard Square or North End or Chinatown or, these big areas where you just know you're going to, hey, let's go have a good one. In fact, structurally, how they kept this place so quiet is because they never allowed liquor licenses in this area. They just passed that like a few years ago. No, this year. And they're now going to put more liquor license. So that's how I think one of the most important things I try to point out to people is how you feel you're in control of your life, but as the urban planner, there's nobody more important in your life than the urban planner. If you were born in a hospital, the urban planner designed that place for you to be born. How far you go to school, I figured that out for you. And I make it either harder or richer than along here right now, according to the Boston Public BPDA, this area has the highest level of kids 0 to 17, and there's not a T in sight. You got to take the free 28. If you've been on the free 28, the people on the free 28 don't want to be on the free 28, right? It's just it's the free bus that goes from Dudley down to Mattapan. So all this is by design, and this is not me. I have all the data. That's one thing about I also work with some reparation work. And the idea behind reparations is that it's all about slavery. Yeah, you know what? This is a project. Let's just take it off in sections. Let's do from the civil rights on, and then before the civil rights. And then you can, so there's redlining reparations is what I'm trying to say, because there's a different level of subjugation that happened there. All right, everybody did it? I just don't want to start the next question before she gets back because, okay, great. All right. I'm gonna, before I go and get the answer. Hey, Vicky, did you do it before you left?
No.
No?
No, he's probably ahead of me.
Okay, go ahead and do it. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. You're gonna have like an hour of like, you got your, well, let's see. He might not got it right. You never know. So I'm waiting for you to do it and then I'm gonna go on. But yeah. A lot of interesting facts when you start learning about how the city was. But the city was actually more diverse and inclusively diverse. What I'm saying by that is that just because you had a little African-American community, it wasn't like, You couldn't go there. Although there were places like Charlestown and South Boston and Hyde Park that you didn't want to go. And if you know like anything about the desegregation, that's where a lot of the drama happened at the schools with Hyde Park High, South Boston High, and Charlestown High.
My dad had stories about that.
Right. So there were some communities, but the truth is that it wasn't just racial, because the Italians didn't like the Irish didn't like the Jewish. It wasn't like, oh, because I'm white, I can just walk in. No, it wasn't like that either. Just that I have to ask you a question if you're white. If you're not white, then I know what to do off rip, right? That's the main difference. All right, so you got it?
Yeah, I did it before. Like,
I told you did. I knew you weren't gonna give up that number one spot that easily. All right, let's see. Dorchester is the correct answer. Remember I showed you guys that thing earlier on in the day where they said the people that lived in this area, there was Jewish, but there was no African Americans in these areas. So these areas were not African American back then. So think about Dorchester now. Can you imagine the whole place? And this is, I mean, like I said, this is not long. I know you may think this is a whole line long ago. I mean, I'm not old, and I was not alive when the Jewish people left, but like by 5 years. So they left at the end of the 60s. Like they left at 68,000 of them left in a year and a half.
so what year did like Dorchester start being known for like?
Probably in the 80s. Probably in the 80s it starts. Now, I didn't talk about this too much. That's a good question. Thanks, Vic. Okay, let's see. Vicky is not playing. Y'all just not serious. You see, this is what serious people do. Anyway, I need you to say, Lynn, you're serious, but you're just guessing. She's guessing right, and no, actually, she didn't get it right. She didn't get it right, but she still has the best time, and she has the highest win. Well, the right answers. All right, we only have what? We have 5. So, okay. What was I going to say before I left? Let me just go back so I can see that map. So we talk a lot about white flight. That's always brilliant. But there was black flight. And the flight was in reaction to the fact that a lot of these places no longer were connected to the center of the city. So before, you would just get in. If you were down here, you would just get on the orange line. That time it was the elevated rail. And you would get there and you go and land right in Dudley, now called Nubian Square. And you would get off, go downstairs, and you would get on a trolley, and the trolley would take you down Warren to Grove Hall, and down Grove Hall, down to Franklin Park. The zoo was free. And there was a lot of little businesses and like a lot of businesses and like bakeries and movie theaters and stuff all along Blue Hill Ave. Now you only hear about it's only gunshots that's happening there. And this, when they removed it, it's like, okay, think about having a farm, right? And I got a pipe full of water, and it's getting the water out, right? And I now take the water, it's making sure that everything is growing. And then you see this thing getting bigger and beautiful, right? And then now I move the water over here and don't let the water get. That is what the trains are for. We say they have buses. There's and this is very important to understand, we segregate ourselves by infrastructure. So I'm going to ask you a question. Who do you imagine when you think of the commuter rail? Think of the average person. You don't have to answer, just think about it. Now, who is on the T? Different person. Who is on the bus? Different person. Who's on the duck boat? Tourists. That's a different level of transportation. It's kind of have like a motorcycle. It is actually a different thing, right? So if you don't have, and the trolleys, if you've ever been on one, it's kind of like, it's kind of like romantic. Oh, this is like the old Boston. It's so fun, that kind of stuff. So without having that train, certain people are not going to go down there. And those people are not just coming by themselves, right? What they got in their pockets. What do you say? Knives? There's a knives? No, not knives. No. Where they got in their pockets? What you got? Y'all not, was it? Well, maybe. What y'all got in your pockets? I know I ain't got none right now. Money, right? Money. So when you see those roads are like, that water is money. That's what comes down the line. And the pipe, the water, only that this water only picks certain pipes to go down. It's going to go on like the latest, newest rail that they've developed in the Boston area is where? In Tufts. Going up there, because that's where that money wants to go. So we got to build a road to it. Meanwhile, like I said, the kids that here is 0 to 17, both live there. Ain't no money there. These kids ain't got no money. So we're not going to build anything to them. Okay? So this is so that's very important to understand how the segregation works. So when they remove this, they basically isolated this, and the only time you can get there is really kind of from the Jamaica Plain area. While nobody, it's a golf course. There's a golf course in the hood, y'all. Who left it there? It's a zoo.
There's an interesting story behind that.
What, the golf course?
Yeah, no, the Franklin Park Zoo, how it was once one of the biggest zoos that people all over would come to.
Yes.
And then once Black people started moving into the neighborhood, there was white flight, and the Franklin Park Zoo was just abandoned, essentially. And what used to be a very affluent zoo, like that a lot of people would come to, nobody came anymore.
Right.
And then the zoo just kind of went into just ruin, essentially.
Right. I completely agree with you, but I would add one part. It's because they removed the rail. So the people are not how are you gonna get there unless you have a car? In fact, if you go on your phone and look for parking, because if you're a tourist, you're not gonna know all the little places to park. Look for parking. You'll see there's no parking in these communities, in our communities, because but there's mad parking up here, right? So that's very true. And like I said, it was abandoned. If you remember, like during segregation, they used to like fill up pools rather than integrate them. That's basically the same thing they did to Franklin Park. They just said it's not worth it. And I didn't finish the Black flight. So the Black people who could afford homes, right? They moved here. So there was Black flight. It's just that it's not, but then once they moved here, they were trapped because they couldn't go anywhere else. And then their property values, they bought a house, and then the next day the property values go down. Because remember, if you put in T-stops, your property value goes up. All right. So think about it like if you're looking for an apartment, oh man, I got this apartment. It's only 5 minutes from the T. It's got, great green space next to it. It's got this, those are what we call add values in engineering, right? These things make your apartment more expensive. You don't want to, oh, we got gunshots next to the house. Like, no, we don't want to live there, right? Or we don't have easy way to get there. We have to own a car. That means we have to think about parking. There are people around this Brookline, they haven't owned a car in 30, 40 years. They got more money than a lot of us. They don't want a car because why do they need a car? There's no point. I just walk a little bit, 5 minutes. Just a 5-minute walk. Everything they need is in that area. All right. So I just wanted to go to that before we go to the next question. Okay. So remember I showed you this map, and I do this map because it's so important for us to understand that this was a national program. Answer quick. Hey, don't be listening to me because I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to hear it. All right. So you've got a situation where look at all these places. Thousands and thousands of communities. All of them, some different level of like Black Wall Street. I don't know if any of y'all have heard of this. It's called the Chitlin Circuit. Y'all heard of that? No. Y'all know what chitlins are? Okay, you know what chitlins are? So chitlins is kind of like a slave food, and it was like pig intestines. People ate it because they had to, not because they wanted to, but there was no protein, so they would do that. And the Chitlin Circuit is like a series of entertainment districts. Okay, so if you like Martin, like Aretha Franklin, James Brown, Stevie Wonder, all those great musicians, they played on the Chitlin Circuit. So it's like a bunch of African-American cultural hubs linked. Okay, so in Boston, it was the South End where Wally's was. So you would, if you're coming, you go to New York, you play New York, you're a musician, you go and play in, you play in Boston, and you go to the next town, but you can't stay at the Ritz-Carlton or downtown. You got to stay in your community. So there's money moving in and out of these communities because you have Stevie Wonder staying there. You have, Aretha Franklin, James Brown. You have all these people staying in these communities because that's the only place they can live, or stay in the hotel, right? Well, at least without getting embarrassed and going, oh, you can go out the back, right? So all these places were leveled to the ground by highways. I'm going to Dallas. My parents live there. And in Dallas, there's this place called Deep Ellum. I said, oh, let's go and see it. It's a highway. There's nothing there to see, except for let's say, looking at cars drive by. Okay? And so basically with all the city expansions and the highways, they leveled all these spaces. So Apollo Theater, who's heard of Apollo Theater in New York? That's the Chitlin Circuit. Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., all these places have these little communities where they, sorry, that's this. All right, so have everybody answered the question? 6 out of 7. Everybody, all right. Let's see. And the answer is, there's actually no definitive data. Anybody care to guess why?
A lot of people get relocated.
Sorry?
A lot of people get relocated or
Yes.
located in different areas.
True, but why, okay, let me rephrase that right. Why did, why is there nobody that came after they left to study and say, oh, this amount of people are no longer there?
Probably don't care.
That's very good, yes. Any other reasons? But I mean, no, that's basically the reason, but there's a little more depth. Well, that's probably too much that they would spend to count. Like no bun, I mean, you're right, but there's something else. There's a little bit more.
Is it because these communities were like distrustful of people who might have been?
Well, okay, it would be Northeastern and Harvard that would be doing the studying, right? So why didn't Harvard and Northeastern study them? Because they're very much so. So you're all right. So, but yeah, the basic thing is that there's a tradition in this country where when there are things that we want to make money from and we want to whitewash certain things, we're just going to pretend like we don't study it. Right now, there are certain states that do not study climate change. Florida is one of them. You can't even use any data from climate change in Florida to pass any laws. Now they're getting inundated by hurricane every year. Maybe they'll change their mind. I'm a spiritual person, so I just say the guy upstairs is, oh, you don't want to believe, huh? But nonetheless, all right, when I was young, like you guys' age, in the 90s, there was okay, how many of us know that tobacco is addictive? I say, you don't, I mean, at least you read it on the back. You can hardly pretend. I don't even say you smoke. He looked at me like, what are you trying to say? No, I'm just playing. I'm playing. So basically, it's called, it's on YouTube, it's like the 7 dwarves. So basically the 7 big tobacco companies went to Congress and they raised their hand up and under oath in the 90s. So this is like, I mean, I'm about you guys' age. Said that tobacco was not addictive. And you know why they could say that? Because they had never studied it. They wouldn't fund any studies because what they're trying to sell cigarettes. So why would I fund something that's going to tell me to stop selling cigarettes? And that's what's happening to climate. It's very important to know the history because then you can start attacking people on a different level. Because the reason why there's climate change now, since I was your age, they've been telling us that the whole world was heating up. But back then there was no different. There was nothing going on. But now it hasn't really snowed in Boston for 5 years. Like a real like super snow, like like if you're from Boston, y'all probably too young to even remember now. You know what I'm saying? Y'all have been like, But I know y'all remember this. How many of y'all miss snow days? No, you're right. No more snow days. But back in those days, you go to school. You would be going to school almost into July because there's snow days. You didn't go to school for so long. And these are the changes that are happening in our community. And if nobody studies it because they're ashamed of what their community did to another community, too bad. And I'm telling you, this fight, whatever you think you're doing here in trees, you're talking about changing the environment. And if I can design a place that look fantastic, but I will ensure everybody is poor. Do you understand what I'm saying? I can design a place that looks great, but for you to live there, you cannot afford to, you would not have any way of making money. I can do it. It's like art. I can think of anything and I'll design it. And that's why it's very important to understand why we're having climate change today is because half the country is still denying it. Up to now. You guys even have it, I would say you guys have it worse than it was back then. Because back then, it was all new. Now it's, we already know, and they still just say no. So all the climate change, we have to get more studies on it and things like that. Me personally, I think sometimes these studies are a red herring or like a diversion, shiny object. Because in the end of the day, if there's an emergency, let's say, God forbid, let's say, okay, our arbitrary person A, right? We walk out and arbitrary person A gets run over by a car. And we see the person there, you know what, let's see, can we get some studies going to make sure that we know before we touch them, because we could touch them and we could make it worse. We don't want to make it worse. So we're going to watch the person squirm and let's call the cops. We'll sit here and then, we'll just go about our business. Maybe call the cops. That is what all these studies are to me sometimes. If you see somebody studying, hurting, it's called a triage. And that means that, when you see, like first aid, you just go and start giving them, because you don't, whatever is going on, I don't need to get the studies to know how many bones are broken or where it's broken. I know bones are broken. I know tie it up, stop, restrict blood, all these things. And the fact that we're even going through a study, which is something that I must caution you on, also the Democratic side, the white liberal side of, because inherently the control factor is still there. And while they say things nice and they're very concerned and empathetic, the amount of time they take to get things done is it's just as harmful as not doing it sometimes. Because when you know the cavalry is coming, then you relax. Makes sense? Like, if somebody's coming, somebody's coming to help you, then you just take it easy. But if nobody's coming to help you, then you kind of are more vigorous. So when somebody tells you they're going to help you, you relax, and then they're saying, well, you know what, but we need to do studies and figure it out. And oh my God, like what? No seasoning. We need seasoning. Give me death or take but don't give me chicken with no seasoning. All right? I need it. All right? Vicky is still on top. And Lynn, you are racking up a half hour. All right. So this is the last question. And this goes to our area right here. And I've kind of talked a lot about it. And so this is what they call the Beberg area. Very important for this particular area. Right? Let me just hold on because I know y'all not listening. Y'all trying to answer and win the quiz. And it's actually very close. If Vicky misses and another person gets right and you get 3 and she gets 2, you pop up to the top of the list. Right? So this is the Beberg area. All right? If you notice, we are smack dab in the middle of it. Okay, this area after Martin Luther King was assassinated. That's another great fact. Martin Luther King was assassinated April 4th, 1968. Redlining and segregation became illegal 7 days later on April 11th. It was his death that made it happen. Just like the death of John F. Kennedy, another guy who was in Boston, who broke the culture barrier, which is another thing people don't understand because he was the first Irish Catholic to be president. So it's important. But anyway, let's get back to our story. So Viborg is basically, these are the reservation lines. These are the plantation lines. This is where African Americans were allowed to buy homes. This area also where the Jewish people were, which is also another group that is famously not liked by the status quo. Right? The idea was that, see, during the 50s and 60s, African Americans and Jewish people had a very strong bond. Extremely strong bond. Not all, with every group, there are people on the, on the fringes that don't like to mix with anybody, but the vast majority. And why? Because they were a lot of them had just come from Germany and Europe, and they had been subjugated and Holocaust and all this other stuff. So when they came here, they said never again. And when they meant never again, they meant never again for nobody. I always try to put that out there because some of my youth that I teach, they're like, oh, where everybody's white. No, well, let me tell you what, I have a Jewish friend, and he one time told me, I'm scared of white people killing me. And when he said it, I go, you're right, I get it. But I didn't think about it like that, right? Because sometimes you have to walk in another person's shoes, because yes, they're white, but they're not the tribe or the culture of racism. It's a difference, right? Just like if I'm Nigerian, it's not the same as being Jamaican or Haitian. Like, don't call a Haitian Jamaican. Oh my God, it's like fighting words. Right? Don't call it Dominican Mexican. Oh Lord, it's about to get down. We about to go to scraps, right? So just because you're a certain race doesn't mean that your ethnicity doesn't play a big part in who you are, how you see the world, how you treat others based on your historical history. So if you've been 6 million people of your people have just been killed, if you see something like that happening, right? You're going to stand up for it. Like, I know a lot of people when they see, I don't know if you guys know Ta-Nehisi Coates. He just recently went to Gaza, and what he saw there, he kept on saying, this is segregation. Like, there was nothing you can tell him because I just went through it. There was nothing you could tell him. So just in that vein, I always clearly say that's why cultural diversity matters more than racial diversity. It really does. And I'll tell you another fun fact. America's the only place that does this. If you are in any other part of the world, they identify by land and the people that live on that land, and say we are the people that live on that land. So if you're a Nigerian, it doesn't really help to be talking about black because everybody's black. If you're in Europe, what good is it to talk about that? Everybody's white. If you're in Europe, in China or Asia, same thing, right? So the race is only important here, but everywhere else, I'm Haitian. They talk because there's a land called Haiti, right? I'm from Ecuador because there's a place actually called Ecuador, right? My dad's Nigerian because there's a place called Nigeria. Now we can go deeper, but we won't. But when you think of how things are built and all this area was a section area designed to house people, because once they took out all the trolleys, the property values go down here. But outside, the property values stay pretty high. So those are like walls, economic walls that you cannot cross. Like, how many of us can go live in Brooklyn? I know I can't. There's a big old wall. Might as well be 1,000 feet tall. So I can't do this. Might as well, I never. Right? How many of y'all can live in the seaport? You know how much it is to live in the seaport? Like $5,000 a month for like a skinny 2-bedroom, not a fat one, a skinny 2-bedroom. That's a wall. Whether you want, and that's, being from Nigeria, we've done it. You'll be like, oh, anybody can come in, but when you see the prices, you know whether you belong or not. And that's how this works. So now this area has no money, but guess what? It also means it's cheap for me to buy and invest in. So that's why this community that lives here will now be displaced, because now that over many years have passed, all the people of color here, you better find out where you want to go. Because I'm telling you, you better, y'all better, if you want to stay here, better stay in college. I'll tell you that much. It's literally that serious. If you don't have a college or that kind of, because they're building buildings for young professionals. South Boston, we don't talk about it much because we see it's white people, okay, it's always been white. No, but it was Irish people there before. Now it's young professionals. It's already been gentrified. It's gone. You cannot afford to live in South Boston. It's like crazy, right? So this area, black people that were when they tore down the community here in South Boston, they now around Dudley and Madison Park, when they tore down those places, the rich ones were able to live here. And when they moved here, remember, you just had to sell your money. Nobody's buying your house because they know that they're going to tear it down. Were you going to buy a house that they're going to tear down? No. So why would I do that? Then you come over here and then you think, okay, well, I'm in a good neighborhood, then all Jewish people leave. And like I said, by the later 80s is now basically starting to turn into what we know today. And so let's see what the answers are. Has everybody answered? Everybody answered? I know Vicky answered. I know she Twitter fingers. All right. Well, how was infrastructure affected by redlining? Okay, removal of trolleys, racial covenants, and the House of the Deeds. So that's the racial covenants. Does anybody know what a racial covenant in deeds of houses mean? Help us out.
It means like they would literally have on the house deed, like if you're black, you can't buy this house.
Right. Like, so you'll go in, like, the title, like when you're about to sign, the title, the contract to say you own the house, there will be a little section that says, if you, nobody can buy, own, rent, or sell this house unless you're in the Caucasian race, or you cannot sell it to an African-American, Mongolian, Jewish is also put in there, unless, it has a little section, the person is working for the white person. Literally put there, like a little section. So if you have you can live there if you're working for somebody, right? So all of the above. Wow, we got a lot of right answers there, 6-7%. All right. Yeah, so this one, basically all of these are correct, are the reasons. Once you remove the infrastructure, there's real estate malpractice. Oh, I didn't talk about that, but that's the next part. Gabe is taking the lead. All right, Stella, and then Stella came in second. Give it up for Stella, first student, right? And then Vicky, Lily, and Mel. All right, so give it up for yourselves. Good job. All right. Hello. Am I clapping myself? Come on now. Y'all throw some energy. Right. So I'm not gonna, so now this is where we now, because like I said, I would like us to have a discussion, and I will also share other things now, and we can be a little less formal, but basically it's probably gonna go off. Eesh. Oh wait, you know what? Do we have any paper, and then we can have a conversation and we can add the words on afterwards. But the idea is that we want to have a conversation, now that you've kind of talk about it, and then what time do we have? Did I talk a whole 2 hours? 5:42. Okay, we have about 20 minutes. Yeah, I would like to have a little discussion, and then I want you to, because we need to come up with a word. We need to come up with a word to put on my on the Rise Above Redlining portrait. Y'all want to do that? Add your name to just give anybody, and then when we're having a discussion. Because I was gonna do it with the things. This was something so interesting that that the head of the Boston Tree Speak to the Trees was talking about, and it shows the red line map. And if you do here, it shows the tree coverage. All right. So if I zoom in, you can see that there's just less trees in the red line areas. All right. All right. You know what? I'll go back to this so we can use our phones if you want, because it'll be easier for me to. All right. Let me go back to slideshow. All right. All right. So what was the most interesting thing that you guys think you heard today? Like, what do you think is really, like, what do you think is interesting that you guys heard today?
A black person could rent or buy a house.
Right. Okay, the racial covenants. Let me show you a picture of some. All right. And now I want to hear discussion because it's important that we do discussion to see if it's here. Might not be here. Oh, here we go. Is this a good one? Okay. It's not a developed one. But anyway, for the sake of being fast. All right. All right. So you see those are the racial covenants. Okay. So I kind of, this is not on a fully done slide, but I don't have time to think about it. So I'm going to go find it. It says here, no property in said addition shall at any time be sold, conveyed, rented, or leased in whole or in part to any person or persons not of the white or Caucasian race. No person other than one of the white or Caucasian race shall be permitted to occupy the right? Then after that, no animals. The use of animals to dehumanize is a very common tradition in the American races, Confederate culture that exists. So it's whatever, it's always like, look, racial than animals, right? So, and it's important. I'm not gonna hide you off from any of this because I think this is much, from some of the stuff that happens in the world today, this is nothing, right? And I think it's important that you guys notice so that when you go out there and people are giving you, like you said, when you were growing up, somebody told you that it was about housing discrimination. I think I've proven to you with data that this that was that was something that they used it afterwards, but it was not, right? So think about the words around these racial, so when I'm talking, I want you to be thinking of words that are standing out. So if it's the restrictions, or remember, we're trying to rise above redlining. That's the name of the portrait. And we want to kind of think of a keyword, something that's standing out. And when we get a bunch of words, we'll now vote and say, okay, let's pick one or two of the words and then we go from there, right? So, just to, maybe I'll go back to that just because I know not everybody was here. Maybe we've been talking for a while. So let me remind people. I'll go here first. So this is the Rise Above Red. This is Daphne. This is her drawing it in February. And these are some of the, I named her Eva. I get to do it. This is my drawing. So I'll go back to even the beginning. Oops, not that far. Oh, where am I going? What am I doing? Yes, it is that far, right? So this is the updated one. So we had an event in September, and like I said, so we have trust, heritage building, togetherness, heritage, wealth, power, resilience, accessibility, organize, overcome, prepare. All right. So I don't want you to think of I'm talking, but I want you to think about rising above some of the issues that we face, those walls that I told you, right? How do think about some of the ways to overcome them. So fantastic. Any other words, anything that stood out from the conversation? Vicky has given us the racial covenants. So like in this area, there were probably a few, but in general, it was an attitude that you knew you couldn't live here. My brother, what's going on? Any words that I said that you thought? Well, any concept. It don't have to be a word, but don't let me not. Stella, what's going on? I know you got something.
Wait, repeat the question.
I said, like, what kind of what? Since I've been talking, what are some of the things that stood out to you? Like something like, wow, okay,
Everything's racial.
everything's racial. It is not. Remember, I said it's not exactly racial. Remember, because I told you that there were Jewish people that were also, they're white, right? But they were not considered white by the I don't know, the super white people of those days. I had a student that said, "Oh, no, she's not white. She's spicy white." Meaning because the person was like Spanish, light skinned Spanish or something. So she was like, "Oh, she's not white. She's spicy white." So that's where we got the seasoning and the food from because of that. But any other things? Lynn, did anything stand out? Do you mind me asking? Are you Chinese? Where is it? Where are you? Vietnamese. Oh, right around the corner. Excellent. Chinatown, you know where the ink block is? You know where the ink block is? Like across the street from Chinatown? That area was Chinatown. In fact, the whole of I-90 across was Chinatown. They put the highway right through it and displaced thousands of people. So that ink block, if you notice, there's a place called the C-Mart right across, right? Why is the C-Mart there? It used to be with all those people. And that's why it's so low, because it's an old building, like it was. But yeah, that whole area used to be, and then right down was just a little Syria in the south end. There was a Puerto Rican community in the south end as well. Although there's still a lot of Puerto Rican there, but still. All right. So, okay. Any other questions or any other things? Any words? Okay, let's pop out some words so that we don't have so how do we overcome redlining and urban renewal? What are some of the things we need to do? And like I said, you can't use any of these in solidarity. So wealth, power, resilient, accessibility, organize, overcome, prepare, trust building, heritage, and togetherness. What are the things? Now you guys are kind of tree, not to throw any hints out there.
Something I think about is like cycles, like you said, like knowing the history and like how like all this time has passed with things, because of the property value of areas like Rochester and stuff, like these cycles.
Yep. That's
that in mind is really important.
I think that is true. So how do we make that inspiring? What word can we pick to make that his concept of repeated, like breaking the cycles, something like that? Vicky, you have anything for us? Really? Okay. It's not that hard. Nothing. We need a word. I'm not leaving without a word. And I'm sure y'all want to eat something. Y'all can't eat until. Compassion. What do you guys think about compassion? Stella, what do you think? You're an artist? Well, I mean, you look like you enjoy drawing. That's hard.
Maybe understanding.
Understanding. Okay, so we have understanding, compassion. Any other words that we want to throw out there? Lynn, you have anything that you're thinking about? How did hearing this information about the different communities, how did it make you feel, Lynn?
I don't know the word.
Sorry?
I don't know the word.
You don't know the word? Okay, describe a bunch of words. I don't need you to tell me a word. We're gonna digest what you say and think of a concept from there. But just how did it make you feel, just in general? Just speak.
I don't know. It was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And don't know, like, kinda.
That's the train, right? That's fine. Don't stress yourself. My brother, anything I said, anything how to make you feel, bro?
Clever.
Huh?
Clever. Clever.
Collaborate.
No, clever. Clever.
Clever. Okay. We have to be clever, right? We have to be maybe smarter, educated, um, compassion. I like that. I like that. All right. So we kind of have some ideas here. We have compassion. We have clever. We have, what did Stella say? Understanding. And Vicky didn't say nothing. Vicky didn't have nothing. What you
Talking
said?
about like cycles.
The
I
cycles.
guess like a positive thing would be like perseverance.
We have. I think we do. Do we have perseverance?
Oh, I think reflection would be
Reflection. Okay. So let's just. 'Cause I don't want to keep us too long, and I know people are like we've been here for a while, and our butts are numb. Yeah. Relief. Okay. Like yeah, like relief. Like okay. So we have. Let's just vote on the word because okay. So you know what? We can even do it easy on the phone. So that I have my data. You know me, I'm a data hound. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna assign. So which words do we want to put? Because we have 3 words. All right. So which one is option 1? We write it down. Help me write it down. So which option 1? We have understanding, compassion. Okay, let's do our students' words. Understanding. So write understanding. So that can be number 1. We have relief, right? And then I think we have. Well, let's get one because we get one of this. We get one collaborative one, which was. You have. Wait, yours was what was it? What you said? Reflection. Reflection. So that can come from. So we have 3 words. Option 1 is understanding.
Wait, are we writing this?
Well, yeah, you can. Well, he can write it. I just want to. No. Well, I was going to get y'all to vote on it. So that on your phone, so that I can have the actual like proof that this was what the word was. But option 1 is I just need that. I'll just take that so I'll know what the words were. But so option 1 was your understanding. Option 2, all right, and I think I will. I don't know which one I'm going to vote for, but so what you got to do is when you take the option 1, you got to put it above the line and you rank them. All right. So if you like option 1 better, you put option 1. So under option 1 is understanding. Option 2 is relief. Option 3 is reflection. So it's not really like everybody, it's kind of like ranked choice. And you put them in the order that you like. All right. All right. All right. So we've got understanding in the lead, followed by reflection, followed by relief. Everybody vote.
Wait, what was the options? Like,
Option, okay, number 1 is understanding. Number 2 is relief. And number 3 is reflection. All right. So this way everybody gets to vote and everybody is like a democratic process and you can see what happens when we rise above redlining. No problem, no problem. So like I said, and in February, I'm going to make sure that well, maybe before February, but definitely by the end of February, we're going to have your word on there. And then I'm going to have the artwork hopefully be in some nice places where the public can see it and everybody will know that you'll be like, yeah, I was part of it. I was part of the work of art, right? And I think art is very important because Art helps us express things and connect with people in ways that words just simply can't, right? So I use it a lot. Like I said, as an engineer, I actually try to design for culture. So if there's a place and I know the people are musical, then I need to put more stages and I need to put more, it's literally like if they don't have that infrastructure, you can't practice your culture. So like sometimes like, I go and I say, you see, when I say no season, I really mean it. You can drive by some roads in Brooklyn and there are hundreds of people there and you can't hear a bam. 5 Dominicans. It's on and popping. You'll be hearing the noise from miles away, right? Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So therefore, if I'm designing a place for them, I have to make it so it's wide and they like to sit outside and have their fun. So they don't need no little porch. They need a big place for the whole family because his grandma's out there with the cerveza as well, man. You see what I'm saying? Like, and that it sounds like nothing, but it's everything if you're a Dominican, because that's like I tell you, like you drive, you see anybody sitting on the porch is like 9 times out of 10, there's no other Latin community, the Dominican group, and they're having a good time. I'm like, man, it's like everybody's out here looking all, because I'm telling you, and then that's another thing, they're like very happy. It's like I look at it in the face like, okay, I want to feel happy. Let me drive around the Dominican and just be seeing them outside. Because you'll be driving around and everybody's looking Bostonian. And then you just see them and they're laughing, they're cracking, and they're like, man, isn't that nice? And so you have to build the outside of your house to build like that. In Africa, there's one thing that we do. We have what they call the ground floor bedroom. And this is actually not just an African, all communities of culture, just like the market. And what is the ground floor bedroom for? For grandma. All right, I'm going to leave you on this point. And it's very important you understand, well, you say, oh, well, good. Because if you don't create a space for grandma, grandma would not be there. Grandma in the spiceless world goes to an old folks home. But we don't live like that. And if you try to sell a house like that to a person in Nigeria, like, what are you trying to say? My mama ain't dead yet. I have family members. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I need a ground floor bedroom. You can't be serious. This house is not for a grown-up. It's for a kid if it doesn't have a ground floor bedroom because they're not taking care. But doesn't end there. It doesn't end there. Because when grandma's at home and you're at work and you got kids, you ain't got to take your kids to daycare. So just by putting that and building for this culture of life, understanding that there's always 3 generations, a grandma, at least 3 generations, and then you don't get to be raised by complete strangers because they have a certificate from a spiceless institution that told them that they were qualified to take care of kids. But it's more to taking care of the kids than just a bland certificate. There's love and rhythm and passion. How are you going to learn how to cook if grandma's not there to teach you because mom's at work? She can't teach you to cook. But don't worry, when it's mom's turn, when mom becomes grandma, you become the kid and then you have a job, then the cycle continues. But if you don't have space for it, it dies. And this is what simple thing like a ground floor bedroom can do. And I'm not going to even say, and it doesn't even end there. What about the transportation that we're trying to say is going to save our trees? Just from putting the ground floor bedroom, you don't have to take your kid. And let me tell you, these kids, they actually have these daycares longer than you're at work because you have to drop them off before you go to work. Then you got to go to work and come back, pick them up, and then take them. So they're there all day with complete strangers when they should be with somebody in their family. You know, grandma's not going to be there alone. Another grandma, her friend's going to come. It's going to be a big family thing before you know it. They're playing cards and screaming. But this is what happens when you build for culture. So you guys are, like I said, this is the challenge of your generation. I know you didn't make this mess, but if you really want equity and not this marginal little progress that they're selling us, this is what you have to change the infrastructure. You cannot do it with around the edges. If you do not, like they're going to put Blue Hill Avenue. What's the time? What are we doing with the time?
6:03.
Okay, let me end. But they're putting a bus lane on Blue Hill Ave. They don't connect it to Roxbury, it doesn't matter. You need to get that money in the pockets through here, then you need to find ways to keep the people here. But if you don't build it, there's nothing, very little you can do. All right. Thank you so much for listening to me over these hours, and I hope you guys have a great time. Thank you. No, I got to clap. Thank you. Y'all didn't want to clap before. Y'all want to clap now? I appreciate y'all. Nice one, huh? Thank you.
Thank you, Marlon.
Oh, yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Any final questions?
Oh, they're like this. I'm sick. They try to get out of here. I already know that look.
Do you have a business card?
Yeah, in fact, I actually have more than that. I have brochures. If anybody wants a brochure, how to reach me, or let me know. But no, I'm looking for a lot of activists. So if you want to be activated, please holler at me. Okay, so like candy. Come on, Marlon. Dang. Exposing myself here. And then there you go.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
So I for Black History Month. So actually, the Redline map was. Would you want? Yeah, thank you. The Black History Month. The Redline map was issued February 1st, 1938. So same as the starting day as Black History Month. And what I have is I do a event series, and this year we have something special. It's the 55th anniversary of People Before Highways Day. I didn't get into that in this. You know what? Have you heard of People Before Highways?
No, I haven't, but that sounds really interesting.
So basically, you know that there was the Orange Line, all the way down to Westwood and Norwood was supposed to be I-95. I didn't get to that today.
I was looking at one of your.
Okay, do I have it?
I did not know that. That is crazy.
Oh yeah. Here it is. I think this is the better one. I should have shown. Yeah, like this. Oh, thank you. So this is why this area was saved, because in 1950, January 25th, 1959, like 2,000 people went to the Mass Day House, and I'm going to do one. The data has to make a point. You can't just be having all this thing. You have to go out there, listen, and show them the spice. Anyway, so this is if you go drive down here, you'll see that it's weird. It's like a weird. I've actually been there. I put my car and pretended to put the hazards and jumped out. And they actually built it. They built about half of it. But it's like so this is supposed to be a 4 like this. It's only this because this goes to Walpole. It's supposed to, so when you're here, literally, you're supposed to be like 5-10 minutes away from Back Bay. This is I-95 going right through the Ponds and River. This is Forest Hills, and it goes right through Rosendale. It goes right through Jamaica Plain, right by Northeastern. And then this is and then of course these circles represent the 2 African American communities. Boom. Then this is from I-93. So you know where there's a residence inn on Melnia Cass, like a big new residence inn?
Yeah.
That's where Martin Luther King met his wife.
Wow.
Level to the ground. I'm telling you, like the cleansing that's going on. They just destroyed Harriet Tubman's the Tubman House here in Boston. I mean, I'm telling you, like,
How are they allowed to do that?
because, like you said, nobody cares, and nobody, like nobody, like, because it's just not. Well, there's another factor, and this is deeper stuff. African Americans, how would I say, because they've been through all, like, they've never actually, like, they're the only people in the world in the history of humanity that can identify a location as their cultural place. Think about that, like. It's mind shattering. It's so, and they're the only ones. So there's actually there's no roadmap. Nobody knows. So you're talking about people that can't articulate certain cultural things that would bring them together. But if you don't even have a place to say this, like, at least I'm Haitian. Like, look, bro, that's my spot. We know, like, you start talking about your land and where you're from, your pride, your food, your language, all those things wiped off. So the reason why I think is partially because they can't advocate for it in that way. The reason why I got into this work because as being half Nigerian, I grew up in Africa, and I can express myself the Nigerian way. Maybe small thing, right? But then that has a lot of spice. Then I now come here and I'm trying to do the same thing on my other side, and there's literally not enough to use. Literally not enough to use. So that's and it's difficult conversation to have because how do you tell people that are trying their best and doing what they can that you can't articulate yourself the way you think you are because whatever you are articulating is literally without spice and you're just regurgitating what you've been taught because it only takes 2 generations to wipe out an information. If your grandma is not able to be there to teach you, it's gone. Whatever she knows, and she's learning from her grandma. So that's the 6 degrees of separation right there. And so this area and this area were wiped out. This I-90 was like this, and then this was supposed to go to Alewife. You know how when you come to Alewife, it's all weird. Like you go from a highway and there's just all of a sudden because it was supposed to lead into a highway. And these are the little weird things that you just go by and you don't know. And once you don't know, you perpetuate it. And like I said, that's why they don't want to teach this stuff. I mean, I teach people in Northeastern. They're looking at me like, hey, half of them can't believe it because in your mind, you're going, I'm in Harvard. I'm in Northeastern. I pay so much amount of money for the best education. How come I don't know? How come they didn't teach me that? They taught me that it was housing discrimination. This is not housing discrimination. This is ethnic cleansing.
It is.
Straight and simple. This place has been cleansed of Jewish culture. That's why you see all these temples. But at least the temples are there. So you know that the people were once there. When there's no presence, that is where there's nothing. And remember, it's not like Jewish culture that's been around since the time before Jesus. You're talking about in fact, there's an ironic thing that I would tell people. These red line maps actually signify the cultural land because this is the longest time that they were actually in one place. If you were enslaved, you were getting sold. So there was actually no way to continue anything because you could have a kid and be looking at your kid thinking, they're going to sell this guy. He's looking strong. So the only time that African Americans have had to be in one place for long enough is between 1865 and 1965 when this was done. The Civil Rights Act, that's such a great thing. These communities were leveled before they got the chance to vote, so they never voted in a district. So much because, when I said, you're living on the world and you're going through your life and you don't understand how the infrastructure, you think you're controlling the infrastructure, but I'm controlling y'all. If this place is hot, none of those kids would have been here.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, little things like that, you feel just nothing, but your environment is what shapes you. And if you don't have the spaces, you can lose information. African Americans used to have the number one data point I can never get is how many of them used to be able to play instruments because it was their thing. It's like knowing the recipe for chicken fried rice and you're a Chinese. It's literally that prevalent. That's why they had so many superstars because it's not like a greater percentage, or maybe it is, I don't know. But I'm just saying that it's more like you just had millions of people playing. You're going to get one Stevie Wonder, one Michael Jackson. You're going to just get a lot of them. And right. And so that culture, all this was done. So they actually, so when they were going to go through Cambridge and all these areas, then there was a big community action, January 25th. And then in 1972, they were able to stop the highways from being built, but not before they had leveled all the African-American places in Roxbury. And that is why there are no African-American spaces in Boston, even though they've been here since 1620 something. And they used to be in the South, in the West End and the North End, and they got moved from there. And so it's like, how do you build this generational wealth if you can't stay in one place longer enough to actually develop your own identity and culture and all these other things? So that is the challenge that you guys face, because I'll be gone. I'll be in the upstairs with the big guy upstairs by the time. Because, hey, it took 100 years to get from slavery to civil rights. So how long is it going to take to get from civil rights to cultural rights? Because that's the key. So, but the good thing is that, like I said, once they get the information out, I'm doing a documentary about this kind of stuff and trying to get the word out there. But there's what I'm saying is that there's actions that need to happen, and we need young people involved. Because I mean, you don't need to worry. I mean, not saying Gaza, I understand it completely, but there's literally a Gaza right here. Because when you start getting, you start seeing the demographics, and you guys see the data. They found rubber in BQE, like in New York City, rubber in people's lungs because they live around the highway. There's the health, the information, there's the canopy, there's all the different things that go on about it, and it's all based on how the infrastructure. So there's a 23-year life expectancy difference here. Yeah, you know that, yeah. 23-year life expectancy difference in this area to Back Bay. And the context is very important. The best hospitals that God has ever created are right here. But they can't get, it's not possible. I
They
gave,
can close down Carney Hospital.
right. We had this, it was very funny. So, during the COVID, they were talking, how do we get the, how do we get the vaccines in the community, blah, blah, blah. I said, just put it in the fast food because you got a lot of those up. Put it, yeah, like, because there are 4 more times here. They have fast food in these locations. There's none in the north end.
Mhm.
So,
That's so true.
yeah, there's like a one Dunkin' Donuts with Chinese letters in Chinatown. There's none really in Harvard. Maybe they have one like somewhere but like or Five Guys, which is yeah. But then there's 3 to 4 more times here. So how are the businesses here supposed to compete with dollar menu? You see, these are the things. So if you look at it infrastructurally, you'll start understanding that is the key, a foundation of every sort of racism, because once you do the map is literally unconstitutional because it was designed with race. Then you now build up the walls, then fight diversity because because what they try to tell you is that they've undone the laws, so it's okay now. It's not okay. I take my kids to the North End all the time. Why? Because I want to show them that, see these roads? These roads were designed in 1620, right? So the law of that time designed this road that said it had to be this wide and this long. And it doesn't matter if it's 2024 or 2124. It doesn't care if you have a Hummer. The law of the guy that drew that law in 16 something is still in effect today. And that's exactly how redlining works. It does not matter if this segregation is illegal because all the train tracks and everything are removed and this and that. All the money is funneled here. Blah, blah, blah. Let me sit back and watch you starve, kill yourself, and go crazy, take drugs. And have you ever thought, how did African Americans go from 1968 with their suits and everything to like 10 years later, they're drugged and because this took effect. I even believe hip hop started because of this. They didn't have the Chitlin circuit. How old is hip hop? 50. It's literally the same time. So you just gotta, once you understand that, you start looking at life through infrastructure, how far things are, where they are, how they get there. And like you said, now they moved from Carney Hospital. So now, and we have the best hospitals in the that have endowments beyond endowments beyond endowments. They could afford to put every student they have in every place. They could be paying people because it's a triage approach you're supposed to use with this decision, not this studies and let us understand and let us figure it out. There's okay, I'll end on this because I know we can work this out. But there's something called the deadly conversation. Very important concept. When you have a deadly conversation, so let's say there's a fruit here. Me and you are all entitled to eat this fruit, but guess what? I haven't eaten in like 5-6 weeks, and I'm literally about to die. Now you have eaten this one, and you're a little peckish, tasty, you could do something, but it's not. So now, but of course, this fruit is for all of us. Even the fact that we're having the conversation about who's going to eat the fruit is already wrong. But fine, you do have a right to it. So let's have it. But then now, because I'm got 5 seconds left to go before I die, you want to, you know what? Let's discuss. Let's have a conversation about this. Let's have a civilized, and this is how they say, civilized conversation. Now, I'm sitting there struggling, trying to have this civilized conversation because I am starving. I haven't eaten. My stomach is attacking my kidney, trying to eat anything it sees. and then I want to have a conversation. Then when I get to the point where I feel my body about to give, I grab the fruit and you say, "You criminal," because I waited for you. Because this is the deadly conversation. That is the power. That's power dynamics at work, and that's what's happening in Gaza.
That's exactly what's happening.
Right? They want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And then the people are starving and killing it. Why? You've destroyed the community. So therefore, yes, that's what you're getting. Whatever you reap, you will sow. So you build a place of destruction, you're gonna have a lot of people who are born in destruction and born with despair. And just like if you build these places produce great individuals, these places will produce crime. But it's all about the environment you created, and you didn't care. They had their own business center. You destroyed their business center. Complained that they got welfare. I mean, they could have just let them in the business center, and then they would. Right now, they would be owning places in Mass Ave on those $1 million things, and you wouldn't have an issue. But you didn't let it happen. So that's what I do, and that's my fight. And I'm not just doing the data. I have my own nonprofit, so this is like me. Like, I'm not just doing the data. It has to be a movement. That's why my kids do the podcast, because we have to be able to tell. It's all like a system.
Your podcast?
I do have a podcast. I'm starting one called Redlining. but I mean, we're on it's called Afro American TV on YouTube. So yeah, that's our YouTube. But the idea is just like I'm building infrastructure to combat this, and it's low, it's low tech. Like using provide devices, you know what I'm saying? But the thing is that we have the truth, and we have the most powerful thing is the social media. You guys don't know what you got in your pockets. If we can galvanize and educate people, and like I said, it's trees, is everything. But most importantly, if you don't redesign the infrastructure, we're just going to be like the North End trying to drive our Hummer through the North End and complaining that, come on guys, you guys should try and make the roads bigger. And that's what we're doing now. We're trying to say, make the roads bigger because, come on. But there's no way. You're going to break it down. You're going to build somewhere new or whatever, but it has to be a solution. But this idea that we're going to be driving our Hummer throughout the whole time and be asking them to have a conversation when they know we're starving and they're not, they're just going to wait for us to commit crimes and then blame us and this and that and the other. So anyway, that's it. It's tough.
Very powerful.
Yeah, this was so, thank you. Yeah.
I was actually having a very deadly conversation myself. I was thirsty.
When is your film coming out?
November. February 1st. We're gonna do it for the launch of the thing. I'm gonna be working on it all Christmas, so probably by February 1st, we're gonna be at the West End Museum, and we're gonna do it then. But like I said, just follow or reach out to me and whatever, and I'll put you on the mailing list and all that. And I think Josh is definitely on my mailing list probably by now. But and then we can, like I said, you guys are the perfect demographic because I teach Northeastern students, they too as well.